If you're trying to decide between the East Village or the West Village in Manhattan, this video is for you. Today, we are going to break down everything there is to know between the East Village and the West Village like you're a local. So you're going to have all the information before you get here to understand the differences of these two very different neighborhoods. Despite both being called villages, they are very different and they both appeal to very different kinds of people. And let me tell you, I relocated here in my mid-30s and I chose the wrong neighborhood. So that's one of the reasons why we love making these videos, because we love educating you so you know and you don't have to make that mistake. So let's get started. We're first gonna break down the geography of these neighborhoods, so where they're located and the layout of each of these neighborhoods. First of all, the East Village is set up on a grid. So a lot of Manhattan, most of Manhattan above 14th specifically, is set up on a grid layout. So almost north, south, east, west, very square blocks. As far as the West Village goes, the West Village was settled before the grid system. So the West Village is not on a grid. It has angled streets. It has some curved streets. So it's quite different and it has a very different village feel because of the way it's laid out. So basically, the differences between the layout of these two neighborhoods gives a very different feel. So you have a very urban feel in the East Village, and then the West Village is gonna feel more charming and more bucolic. So it has this warm, villagey feel that a lot of people, when they think about New York City, they think about the West Village. So let's talk about where the West Village and the East Village are situated in Manhattan. So they're both below 14th Street, and the villages, so Greenwich Village, which is in between the two neighborhoods, spreads like a belt across the city from the Hudson River over to the East River just below 14th Street. These exceptionally great and coveted downtown neighborhoods are a little bit further north than some of the others, so that is also an appeal for a lot of people who might not want to go below Houston Street and certainly below Canal Street. And lastly, I think this is obvious, but the West Village is located on the west side and the East Village is located on the east side. And Andrew's laughing at me for saying that, but I just felt like that was missing. If we haven't met yet, I'm Heather Domi, and I lead the Heather Domi team here in Manhattan. We love helping people relocate to New York City, and that's why we make these videos. We have an incredible guide that details every single neighborhood, so scan the QR code above, and it will take you to our guide launching in New York. In addition to information on every single neighborhood, we have a whole section in the back that's gonna help you assimilate to New York City. Okay, we're gonna dive into transportation because honestly, it is one of the very first questions we ask when we're trying to find the right neighborhood for our clients. So a lot of people ask about the east side or the west side, and my very first question is, where are you going to be working? Because a lot of times that dictates the neighborhood, especially if somebody is using the public transportation system. The east side definitely has more options cross town, and it makes the crosstown commute easier than the west side. The west side does have some options, but it's limited, and you might have a further walk to either get to the subway or once you get off in Midtown, walking to your office. Let me explain why the east side versus the west side is going to be better for people who have crosstown commutes. The East Village has much better proximity to Union Square. So it's easy to get to Union Square because the L train crosses through the East Village and it connects to Union Square. So not only do you have proximity to Union Square for the East Village, but you also have a train that you could hop on and it would take you directly to Union Square. As far as it relates to the west side, the only real option that you have if you are going to be working uptown is a train that goes to Midtown. That train is the E train. You're able to get it. It's not too far of a walk from most locations in the West Village. If you're super far west, all trains are a little far. But if you hop on the E train, it is going to take you to Midtown at 53rd Street. So if your offices aren't too far from 53rd Street, that's a great option for you. And then as far as the L train, which is the one that goes through the East Village, the L train cuts across town perfectly, and it also goes out to Brooklyn. So that L train is very valuable. And again, it takes you right to Union Square. You can take the 456, which is the green train, straight up to the east side, or you could also hop on the NQR. So lots of options from Union Square, a little more difficult to get to from the west side. What about if you're working down in the financial district or somewhere further downtown? Pretty much they both have equal options, and it's very easy to commute downtown. Lower Manhattan starts to go to a point, so it makes it very easy because all the trains converge pretty much downtown at a station called the Fulton Street Station. So you're able to take any line and get downtown. It's very easy. Now we're going to talk about the vibe of each neighborhood. And let me tell you, they could not be more polar opposite. This traces back to their original roots. Both, you could say, are bohemian in nature, but the inventory is very different. So in the West Village, you had a lot of people that settled there and built single-family townhomes. So the row homes that you're used to seeing, very beautiful, tree-lined streets, picturesque. In the East Village, they built a lot of tenements. And so today, those tenements have been converted into apartments, and you actually have a lot of young professionals and college students that live in these apartments. Conversely, on the west side, you have a lot of really expensive townhomes. You have new development condos that have been built that's where they get incredible price per square foot. Some of them facing the Hudson River, so you have some water views. So it's just, they're very different neighborhoods and they're very different price points. So that changes the vibe. In the East Village, it is more eclectic. It feels more urban. You have great restaurants, but they're more affordable restaurants. Whereas in the West Village, you also have amazing restaurants, but they're going to be at the top of the food chain. No pun intended. But you're just going to find a different vibe. The West Village is much more romantic, it's cinematic, it has this really kind of idyllic vibe to it, the tree-lined streets, the beautiful restaurants, everything's curated, great boutiques. So it just has this really polished type feel to it, even though it still has some of that bohemian roots. It just feels more polished, and it calms down earlier at night, where the East Village has more nightlife. I know we're covering a lot about these two neighborhoods, and there are so many more neighborhoods. So if you ever have any questions about your personal situation, feel free, reach out, give us a call, or send us an email at the number and the email below. We're happy to help you decide which neighborhood is going to match your lifestyle. I've mentioned already a little bit about the people who live in the East Village. So again, you're going to have a lot of students, young professionals. You're going to have some people who have been in the East Village for a very long time, where you kind of get that bohemian vibe, but it has a lot more turnover on a regular basis just because people are moving in and out, whether it's students or young professionals that are graduating to other neighborhoods. As far as the West Village goes, that is more storied. So you're going to have some families that have been there for a very long time. You're going to have a lot more pied-à-terre buyers or people with second homes you're going to have in the West Village. And then you're also going to have more established people that are further along in their careers. It just happens to go with the territory when you're talking about the kind of inventory that is there and available versus what you're going to find in the East Village. So the East Village wouldn't be necessarily a neighborhood where you find somebody that's looking to buy a pied-à-terre. We've already spoken about a lot of aspects of the neighborhoods, kind of the vibe and the energy. So let's walk through a day in the life of each and what those would be like. So if we start with the East Village, I'm going to share that the East Village is much more energetic. It has a lot more kind of hustle bustle movement going on in the East Village, especially with its proximity to NYU. You do have a lot of college students. They're moving quickly through the East Village. There's lots of little coffee shops, one-off coffee shops, some small bakeries that you're going to find. And then for the most part, a lot of people, If they aren't doing work from home, they're pretty much commuting out of the East Village for during the day. On the weekends and during the days, there's a lot of vintage stores that are in the East Village people go to, and there's some cute little boutiques that are just so unique to the East Village that some of them are even a destination when people come into town. And then as far as evenings go, I already mentioned about the restaurants. So there are so many great restaurants in the East Village. So whether it is a great quick dinner at one of these restaurants, so you have Frank's and Little Frank's, which are these really great kind of storied Italian restaurants. And then there's Vilselka, known for its Ukrainian food. So they have great pierogies. It's a great brunch place on the weekends. You have a lot of different ethnicities represented in the East Village as far as the food options. So you can pretty much find everything there. And again, it's a more affordable price. In addition to all of that, the East Village also has a very vibrant nightlife. So there are going to be clubs, there's going to be jazz bars, there's going to be live music in a lot of places. It's definitely one of those places where you're going to see and feel the noise. As far as the West Village goes, we've also mentioned how the West Village is going to feel a little more polished. It's not going to be as frenetic. You're not going to have as much movement and pace through the West Village. On the weekends, it does get crowded because it is a destination. So you are going to have a lot of people out for brunch. You'll have lines at some of the restaurants for brunch, but you have a more calm, kind of structured daily routine in the West Village. You're going to have your coffee shop, of course. Every neighborhood has that. But you're going to have your favorite restaurants. You're going to have your restaurants that you go to on a regular basis. They're going to know your name. It's very much a residential type of neighborhood where you feel at home. In addition to that, the West Village has a lot of great shopping. So you're not going to have luxury brands there, but you're going to have some of the kind of mid to higher tier type of brands. So you have Bleecker Street in the West Village that has a lot of shops. You're going to have Love Shack Fancy, Rag and Bone. So those kinds of brands are what you'll find there, along with a lot of different boutiques. And then as far as restaurants go, you do have some Michelin restaurants in the West Village. And every year, there's always a few hot new restaurants popping up in the West Village. The West Village has that see and be seen kind of environment that I mentioned before, but it definitely also brings a lot of excitement. The West Village is definitely going to feel more residential. So it's not going to have the kind of that urban feel that you're going to have in the East Village, and it's going to feel more structured. So two very different vibes, two very different days as far as what you're going to be doing each and every day. Also in the West Village, you have great proximity over to the Hudson River. So you have the Hudson River Park, and there's children's playgrounds, and there's bike paths, running paths, access to the water and all the activities in the Hudson River Park. So that often is a big part of people's day when they live in the West Village. We are now going to get into the cost of living. So these two neighborhoods are vastly different as far as it relates to the cost of living. And there's a few elements at play. So first of all, the East and the West Village have very different housing stock, which we already talked about. That housing stock impacts price. The West Village also sits on the Hudson River. So the West Side in general in Manhattan has really exploded over the last 10 to 15 years. That whole stretch on the West Side from Tribeca up to Chelsea and even a little further north, Hudson Yards and whatnot, those neighborhoods have had a lot of new development activity because of the water views. They've been able to create some really beautiful new developments that have definitely taking advantage of those water views, and they come at a premium. So what I'm going to do to kind of simplify this is I'm going to talk about cost per bedroom. So this helps you decide whether you are a 1-bedroom buyer, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. This kind of helps you figure out where you're going to land. As far as different classifications of inventory, there's really different price points per bedroom. So your more accessible inventory is going to be in the $1 million to $1.5 million per bedroom. So that is pretty much what you could expect, finding something that's going to be in a more affordable range. As far as the mid-level range, you're going to be $1.5 million to $2 million. And then once you get to luxury, which is going to be really those new development condos with the doorman and all the amenities, you can expect 2 to 2.5 million, and then some, depending on if they have those water views I just mentioned. So that's kind of the spectrum. There's going to be obviously a few exceptions with everything, but that's what you can expect, and that's pretty much what you should be able to budget for. On occasion, we do find some stuff a little bit less than $1 million, and it really depends on the kind of inventory. So with the inventory in the East Village, the fact that you have those tenement buildings, those are walk-ups, and they might not be as ideal for modern living. So they might have smaller spaces, very efficient kitchens, smaller bathrooms. You might even find something a little bit below that 1 to 1.5 million mark. And in general, in the East Village, you're not going to find much above the 2 million per bedroom range. So most of it really skews from 1 to 1.5 million, or that 1.5 million to 2 million. A few boutique condos that have been built might be a little bit more pricey, but they are the exception on the East Village. In the West Village, you are not going to find many options in that lower price point. If the inventory is older, so something that is a historic building that's been converted to residential living, you still have some of those quirky types of buildings, similarly to the East Side, that weren't designed for modern living. So again, some smaller rooms, smaller bathrooms, smaller kitchens. You might find some inventory in that 1 to 1.5. But for the majority of the inventory that's been created either in the last 20 years, or there are a few storied co-op buildings in the West Village, that kind of inventory is really going to be in the 1.5 to 2 million. And of course, again, your luxury, which there's a lot of luxury offerings in the West Village, 2 to 2.5 million plus. One last piece about the type of residences that you're going to find in each of these neighborhoods, the various price points, is there never is a whole lot of it. So we are definitely in an inventory restricted environment, specifically in these really kind of special downtown neighborhoods, because all of this is landmarked. We don't have the ability to do a whole lot of vertical construction, building massive towers in these areas, because they are low-lying buildings that are landmarked and are protected, which means there's never a lot of inventory. So we have a scarcity issue. And sometimes I have people looking in both neighborhoods, and it just takes a little while to find the right fit. I think it's important to decide which neighborhood is going to be for you or not be for you. And they are so different. So this video might have completely clarified that one is definitely right and the other is definitely wrong. But just a couple things that I would say that make these neighborhoods the right choices for you is going to be about your lifestyle, and it's going to be about access to what's important to you. So as far as lifestyle, we talk about commuting as part of that lifestyle. If you're commuting east or west, north, south, whatever is going to make your life easier, because at the end of the day, long commutes do not help life in New York City. So you want to have great access to where you're commuting to, and you want to keep it simple. So if you have family or a second home that's outside of the city, the location in which you're going to be commuting outside of the city is going to give you a very clear break, especially if you go frequently, as to whether or not you want to be east or west. So if you have family on Long Island or Brooklyn, you're going to want to be on the east side. If you have family in New Jersey, you're going to be on the west side. If you have family up in Westchester or Connecticut, you actually could do either one. There's great routes to get to those cities. And if you're going to be upstate in New York, but you're going to be west of the Hudson, you're going to want to be on the west side. So those are kind of some minor nuances as to why you might want to be east or west. And again, it really comes down to your lifestyle. If you want something that's quiet and more cultured and civilized, less gritty, you're going to want the West Village. If you like the pace and the energy and the kind of inventory is not that much of a compromise for you, then you're going to want the East Village. Whether you choose the East or the West Side really, I believe, depends on your personality and your priorities as far as accessibility. And I think whether it's the East or the West Village, again, it's going to be your personal preference, your choices. Do you want nightlife? Do you want something that's a little more polished? Do you want more of that urban feel, or do you want more of a real true village feel? I hope that this video has helped you understand the differences between the two. They definitely appeal to very different types of people, and there's very different reasons for selecting one over the other. But that's what we like doing, is sharing this information with you. So please don't ever hesitate. If you have any questions, you can always contact us at the number below or send us an email. Again, I'm Heather Domi, and I lead the Heather Domi team here in Manhattan. We love helping people relocate to New York City. As I said before, I relocated here in my mid-30s, and I made a big mistake when I first moved here. So it really impacted how I lived in that first year and what my experience was like. So we would love to help you figure this out before you get here so you don't make any mistakes and you have a really great experience from day one. So please contact us at the contact information on the screen. And don't forget, we drop new videos every single week.